I'm Rob Taylor, and this is Rob Taylor Tattoo, the show where I tattoo my guests and we talk about real life, wild stories, and everything in between. No filters, no fake energy, good vibes, good ink, good company. Let's go.
What do you do for work?
So, got my own side business doing finish carpentry. Started that really during COVID. My best friend, he's like my brother. He's done it his whole life and asked me to start helping him nights and weekends. And then eventually he asked me if I wanted to help him working by myself and started that. But my day job is basically doing engineering stuff for GE, kind of managing the service parts, building out the exploded views for domestic refrigeration for GE.
What's stopping you from taking your side gig and going full time with it?
I got three basically brothers, and we all kind of represent different aspects of work. One of our buddies in the military, that's his career. I've always been a salary guy, and my best friend, he's like my brother. He started his own business during COVID. That's kind of how I got into the carpentry thing. And then we've got another buddy who buys, sells houses, rents houses. So when you got friends in different job types, you see the benefits of owning your own business, and then there's negatives. I got 5 weeks of vacation, and I don't have any responsibility when I'm on vacation. For my other buddies that own their own business, if they're on vacation, nothing's happening, and they got to front load their schedule before vacation. I got to then backload their schedule with what they missed. So, and there's pros and cons to everything. I like getting a consistent paycheck every week.
The job security means a lot to you.
It does, and I got a lot of freedom in my job. I've I've worked 100-hour weeks. I've worked 80-hour weeks, and I've been in jobs where there was nothing less than 70 hours a week, and I watched my daughter grow up in a cell phone through pictures and walked my dad's footsteps almost exactly. And I remember one time I was working off schedules. I remember the dog just walked down the hallway, and I heard the nails clacking on the floor, and I remember getting mad. Just, can't everyone just be quiet? And I sounded exactly like my dad, and I recognized I needed to make a change. So it took quite a few years, but now I participate in every single one of my daughter's school events. We get to do jujitsu together. My daughter's my shadow. That kid would follow me into battle if I told her everything was going to be okay. And going from never seeing her, watching her grow up in a cell phone, to being able to participate in every aspect of her life, I don't think I could give that up.
So do you have a pretty good relationship with your dad, or?
When I was younger, I didn't. My dad was never around. But when he moved here for work, I stayed up in Minnesota for a couple of years, and he begged me, begged me, begged me to come move down here. So I took a job down here and worked for Ford with him. And I worked more hours than I ever care to admit doing that. Changed who I was as a person. But it was healing at the same time, because I experienced exactly what my dad was experiencing. Saw everything through a different light, and unfortunately he passed away a couple of years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just keeping his memory alive and doing the things that I know he wish he could have done. Too many times when I was young, he would send us on vacation and then he'd stay home to work because that's how you had to pay for it. And now it's a priority to me to make sure that I'm there for my daughter in ways that I know my dad wish he could have for me, but you get committed to a job and it becomes your life.
Yeah.
You gotta find the balance.
Yeah, I feel that. Becomes an identity.
Yeah. It almost becomes your Achilles heel because there's been times where I've gotten a phone call, they need me to come in, and I would drop what I was doing no matter what it was and go in because I felt like that's what you needed to do to move up. But sometimes you gotta recognize that your family is more important.
How old's your daughter?
She turns 8 this weekend.
Oh, okay. That's what's up.
We'll be celebrating her birthday and having a good time. Funny, as they grow up, they're like, I just want to grow up. I just want to be an adult. I want to eat ice cream whenever I want, like you can. But then you look at them and you realize how much you would give up just to be young again. Responsibility is a lot of weight to carry.
What are your hobbies? What do you do for fun?
Motorcycles are a big part of my life. I walked away from them when we moved to Kentucky for about 10 years, and then when I got my road glide, it kind of reinvigorated everything that I loved about it. Used to call it church for a long time, and wind therapy really does something for you. Sometimes you just gotta escape life for a minute, go on a motorcycle ride, and get away.
Are you a spiritual person?
Spiritual is probably a better word for it. You know, I do endurance races and stuff to test myself mentally.
What's an endurance race?
For example, just this weekend, I just did a half marathon with all of my friends and got my mom to come over and do it. She lives in New Jersey, but she hasn't done a half marathon in 15 years. So after I did the marathon in the Derby marathon in April or May, whenever it was, I told all my friends, I was like, this is only half of what I just did. You guys should sign up. It took a couple of weeks, but I got them all to sign up and they all trained. And for me, I undertrained for the majority of the things that I do. And I wouldn't recommend anybody train the little amount that I do and then go attempt these races. But when you learn to control your quit switch, your mind can overcome much more than your body is capable or your body thinks is capable. a lot of people have never pushed themselves to the point that you're fighting through, you're fighting against your body, you're fighting against everything within you to just keep moving forward. I think that was the most enjoyable part about getting all my friends to do it this time, because normally they're on the sidelines cheering me on, and they've always participated and been there for me. I did the Ironman last year, and man, they were all over the course chasing me down, finding out where I was, throwing up signs, egging me on to keep going, and they got to experience what it's like to push your body further than you thought capable. You gain something out of it. To me, it's crossing the finish line is one of the most emotional things, spiritual things that you can experience. You know, it's just a rush of emotion that comes over you. You recognize that you just finished something that you weren't sure that you could finish when you started. You know, and I'm at the point now that my endurance and everything is high enough that even after I finish this half marathon, I grabbed my medal, grabbed something to drink, and started running backwards across the course. Called my mom, found out where she was, and I ran backwards. The same road, the same everything that I just passed. I ran backwards to go find her to make sure that she had the motivation to get across the finish line as well. So I caught her at mile 11. So I ran an extra 4 miles on my half marathon just to make sure my mom get across it.
You say you don't train specifically to make it harder?
No, I don't have the time. You know, most people are running consistently every day, and you know, I work out every day. So I have the benefit at work that we have a full-blown YMCA on property. So for lunch every day, I skip eating and I go work out. So it's not to say that I don't work out every day, but I don't run nearly as much as I should. See, for this half marathon, I ran 3 miles one time, and then I ran the full marathon in April or May. I can't remember which one it was, but I only ran probably a total of 7-8 miles, even prepping for that. But I also sign up for races on a regular basis, so I wouldn't say that I'm not trained to some degree, but to me, the mental aspect is far more important than the physical aspect. I mean, it's even sitting here for the tattoo. I remember the first tattoo I got, heavy breathing, trying to get through it, because I thought at the time it was one of the most painful things I've ever done, and it probably was. But now, yeah, it hurts. It don't feel great. It's not something you necessarily enjoy while it's happening, but when you got control of your mind, you got control of everything else going on in your life, you kind of just recognize that this is short-term pain for a bigger goal, and that's having something that represents who you are on your body for forever. I think quote that I heard semi recently was, you know, the hardest thing anyone's ever done is the hardest thing that they've ever done. And I think sometimes it's hard to empathize with people that you just want them to get out and start taking care of themselves, and you wonder why they don't. But until you push yourself to do something you don't want to do, you don't really understand that you're much stronger than you truly believe you are.
So, have you always been that way, or is that something you started to gravitate towards as you gotten older?
Definitely was never always that way. You know, I struggled with a lot of stuff when I was a kid. And then, right when my dad passed away, I kind of looked at myself and recognized that I wasn't the father that I wanted to be, because the only thing I ever wanted in life was to be a dad. So I started working on that. I started taking my health back. You know, I remember when my daughter was 1, 2 years old, you know, she's maybe 20 pounds. And I'm carrying her up the stairs, and my knees gave out because I just wasn't in any kind of physical shape other than that and not taking care of myself. So when my dad passed away, I decided to take my life back because it was very sudden when my dad passed. We were hanging out deer hunting Saturday morning. Went to go over his house on Sunday. Said he didn't feel good. Said, you know, hey, why don't you just stay home just in case? And then on Friday he died. So very, very,
Was it a
very
sickness?
sudden.
Was it like a heart thing? Like what?
It ended up being COVID.
Oh, really?
You know, and this is after COVID was a gigantic thing. You know, you almost thought it was over. But once that happened, I recognized I needed to take my life back. So I started working out. In the first year, I didn't change my diet, and I didn't look any different. And then the second year, I changed my diet, started paying attention to what I was eating, and I lost 60 pounds that second year. Started signing up for races again. Started doing things to push myself. You know, listen to a lot of podcasts.
Your dad unhealthy guy?
Did not take care of himself the way that he should. You know, I think the biggest thing is when I looked in the mirror, I started seeing him. My face was rounder. Felt like I just saw him in the mirror, and felt like the only way to really honor him was to do the things that I know he wished he could have done, and that's be around. He was less than a year away from retirement, and he kept talking about how he was going to be able to spend all this time with his granddaughter and me, and we're going to get to do a bunch of fun stuff together, but he never made it. So that kind of changed my perspective on life. You got to take advantage of the things today, because tomorrow is the furthest thing from promised. Not a lot of people tell you that. It's not something we teach kids. Not something we teach adults.
I think death is one of those things where we just kind of not necessarily take for granted, but like we don't really pay too much attention to until it hits too close to home.
Mm-hmm. And I remember being so afraid of it as a kid, thinking that that was the biggest fear that I had, and man, death was about as far away from me as a kid as it could possibly get. And I remember worrying about it when my father passed away, how my daughter would take it. And then I gotta say that, she was maybe a little young to truly understand what happened to my dad. But then recently we had to put our Doberman down. And when we brought her to the emergency vet, I kind of knew that most likely it was going to end in putting her down. So when I found out that's what we were going to have to do, my daughter was with me. So I had her leave the room when me and the vet were talking initially. And then after the vet left to go start getting things prepared, I sat my daughter down and told her that unfortunately Emily was going to be leaving us. And I asked her if she was going to want to be in the room with us. And I told her it'd be peaceful and she would just fall asleep and there'd be nothing scary about the experience. And she said she wanted to be there. And she did. She was awesome. And after that, my daughter was having a sleepover at my best friend's house. So he's got two daughters who are essentially an extension of my own children, and my child is pretty much an extension of his family. We take care of each other's kids like they were our own. And my daughter was having a sleepover at their house maybe a week or two after we just put our dog down, and their dog had to get rushed to the emergency vet, and there was a distinct possibility they were going to have to put him down. And my daughter looks at my buddy and says, "I want to come with you." And he goes, "Well, we can bring you home, honey." She goes, "No, I want to come with you because I know how hard this experience is, and I want to be with there for her friend." And she said she wanted to be there for their family. And to just having experienced that and how sad of an experience it is, she wanted to be there for them because she knew that having support and having people there for you meant something. And for a 7-year-old to have that level of understanding of emotion and psychology is just mind blowing.
Sometimes kids are more emotionally intelligent than adults, that's for sure.
Yeah. Catches you off guard at times. Kids pay attention. They're always watching. And I had to laugh the other night. My daughter and I were practicing jujitsu, and I gave her my back, and she didn't go for the rear naked choke. And I asked her why. Because earlier that week I hurt my neck. And she goes, "Well, Dad, I don't want to go after your neck because you're hurt, and I don't want you to get hurt more." And it just made me smile because she recognized that it's something that may have hurt me, and it wasn't even a second thought in my own mind. So just to watch her think about that and that be something that affects how she operates in her everyday life, it's just one of those moments you can't be more proud because she's paying attention, she's learning, she's got the emotional intelligence that I wish I had as a child. And they watch you. When I was training for the Ironman, I'd wear a weighted vest, and then she would ride her bike, or she would go on a run with me, and with a weighted vest, her run speed was about the same as mine, and she trained with me, because my wife's a nurse and she works late, so when I got to get training done, my daughter's got to come with me. And one time she was looking at my medals from the different races that I ran, and she goes, "Dad, I want a medal." And I told her, I was like, "Well, I'm not going to give you a medal, but you can earn one." And she goes, "What do I got to do?" And she was 6 at the time. And I told her, "You got to run a race." I said, "I can sign you up for a 5K. You've run 3 miles with me. You've biked up to 10 miles with me. I think you can do it." So for Thanksgiving that year, I signed her up for a turkey trot, and she completed the 5K all by herself. And now she runs 5Ks with me. She just did another one this year, a couple of weeks ago, and she pushed herself. She, I watched the doubt come over her face about 2 miles in, and I watched as she started to slow down, and she goes, "Dad, I need to walk." I said, "Baby, give me 10 more seconds." And she'd count down from 10, and she'd go, "You know what, Dad, I think I can keep going." And she'd keep going. And then we got close to the finish, and I told her, I said, "As soon as we see that finish line, we're going to run." She goes, "I don't know if I can run, Dad." I said, "The second you see that finish line, you're going to run. And as soon as you cross that finish line, you're going to recognize that you had more energy to give." So we saw the finish line. My wife was waiting there for her with a sign. And my daughter took off running. And she was running so fast, my wife couldn't even keep up with her. And when we crossed the finish line, she got her medal. We took a drink. And she goes, "Dad, you were right. I had more energy. I could have run earlier."
Yeah, being a parent's wild, man.
It truly is. If you take advantage of it, it's one of the best experiences you'll ever have.
See, running's not for me. I used to run a lot, but I'll push myself in other areas. Running is just so boring.
It is insanely boring. The worst part about running an Ironman race is any form of headphones is illegal, and you can actually get disqualified, or you will be disqualified from the race if they catch you with headphones.
Why is that?
I'm guessing it's spatial awareness, just minimize crashes and people running into each other. I'm not actually sure, but that was a mental test in and of itself, because I've never run without music, without a podcast, without a book on tape, something. So I spent however many hours it was alone with your own thoughts. And when you're pushing yourself well past your limit, your mind goes to some crazy places. And you start working through some things that you thought were buried. But it goes back to being a parent. You try to look at the negative experiences in your life and either work on preventing your child from experiencing that negative experience if you can, or you start building them so that they're strong enough to get through the negative experiences in life. Preparing them, because there's going to be a day when you're not there. And you want to make sure that they're making the right decisions, keeping themselves safe. What's your favorite part of being a dad?
Love. Easily the love.
There truly isn't anything like it. I remember the first time my daughter ran towards me when I got home, when she was old enough to recognize, or I guess even old enough to walk and talk. And they just come running at you saying, "Daddy!" And I don't know if that feeling can ever be replicated.
Yeah, my whole life is modeled around being home with my kids as much as possible.
Not easy to do nowadays. I feel like life is set up on spending time away from them.
Oh man, you want something bad enough, you'll figure it out.
Yep. Takes commitment. Takes the conscious thought to make decisions, to be able to be there for them. Just appreciative that I learned or came to the realization early enough in my daughter's life that that's what's important in life, is being around for them, participating in their school events.
I'm selfish. I don't do it for them. I do it for me.
There's value in it.
Like, I don't go and support them to make them feel good and to feel supported. I go because I'm happy to be there, super proud, and I'd rather hang out with my kids than any adult any day of the week.
I feel like sometimes I gotta remind myself of that. I'll be watching my own TV show and my daughter will be watching some kind of show that provides me zero entertainment. And when she'll initially ask, your first reaction is kind of, I do not want to go hang out in your room and watch whatever it is that you're watching. But then you remind yourself that you're not always going to have that opportunity. There's going to be a time when she's not in that room, or she's old enough that she doesn't want to hang out with Dad anymore. So you take advantage of those times.
Was your dad into motorcycles too?
Oh yeah.
Is that how you were exposed to it?
Yeah, my dad raced motorcycles the majority of my childhood. I pretty much grew up on the racetrack. My dad did drag racing on motorcycles. I actually I have his old drag bike. I built a platform in my garage and elevated his drag bike above my toolbox. So it kind of sits there to memorialize him.
That's what's up. What kind of bike was it?
Technically, it has Kawasaki written on it, but everything is custom. It's not like nowadays where they throw a turbo on a Hayabusa and they go down the track. Back then, he built his own motors, built his own frame and everything else. I mean, my dad was very talented in so many different ways. He's the type of guy you could call and say, hey, I'm working on a working on a 95 F-150 and it's doing this, that, or the other thing. And he'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, just open up this panel and there should be a purple wire. And like, how do you know there's a purple wire in there? He goes, just trust me, there's a purple wire. He'd just be like, where do you store all this information? He's the type of guy that just, there was nothing he couldn't fix. And there was nothing, nowadays we don't know how to fix something. We go watch a video on YouTube and take care of it. He probably couldn't even pull up a YouTube video, and yet he knew how to fix everything.
That's good.
He's a machinist, a welder, electrician. There was nothing he couldn't do. That's probably the hardest aspect of losing him was, it happened so sudden. It almost doesn't feel real initially. And I remember I was sitting in Menards. I was grabbing grease. I don't remember what the heck I was doing. I was grabbing grease for something. I wasn't sure what grease I needed. And I picked up my phone to go call my dad to ask him which one I needed. And I remembered that he was gone. And right there in the aisle of Menards, I threw down the aisle what was in my hands and just basically had a temper tantrum mental breakdown because the guy that I called for everything was no longer available. Realized that I had to learn how to do everything myself, and I had to become the person that people call to know how to fix stuff, know how to take care of different things.
How long ago did you say you passed?
Coming up on 3 years next month.
What about your mom? Is close with her still?
Oh yeah. My parents got divorced when I was younger, but they always maintained a good relationship. My family's kind of interesting. All my aunts and uncles and everything, they all grew up together. So, even after my parents got divorced, they knew each other since they were kids. So they always maintained a good relationship after, the initial heartbreak of divorce and everything else. But my mom's my confidant for everything. Call my mom every day on the way home from work.
You have a stepdad?
Yep. So both my parents ended up getting remarried, and when your parents get remarried when you're older, and my parents even got divorced when I was a little older, you don't need a parent to replace them. So, my parents remarried for themselves, and I have a good relationship with my stepdad, and it's just I don't need a dad. I don't need another dad. So I see them more as my parents' significant other than I do a father figure or someone that I need to fill a void.
With your dad passed, do you keep in contact with your stepmom?
No, that was the death of my dad definitely didn't go over well. That definitely ruined that relationship, and things took an interesting turn after he passed. So, just say that my dad's rolling over in his grave right now. But people show their true colors during death, and sometimes those true colors aren't colorful. But through it, I've built a good relationship with my dad's brother and sister, and talk to them pretty regularly. And it's funny the things you learn about people after they die. You get to hear all kinds of extra stories and things you never knew about them. Just glad my daughter got to know him a little bit when she was old enough to hopefully have that memory last her lifetime, so she at least knew who he was.
That's good.
So when did you start planning for this tattoo?
And I'd say quite a few years, but the mainstream of AI and its ability to create images definitely helped it along. Prior to that, you're commissioning artists to draw something that you have in your mind, or it's more difficult to make changes, whereas you can send multiple images into AI and say, I want this, I want that, and I want it to be along this theme, and it'll create an image, and you can edit the image while talking to it and get it to be exactly what you want. And
What platform do you use?
I used to use ChatGPT a lot, but I've had a lot of good luck with image generation from Gemini.
Yeah, it uses Nano Banana. Nano Banana is probably the best image generator out there.
Yep.
It was so good that all these other sites started picking it up. Like, instead of Adobe trying to compete with it, they just implemented it, and now you can use Nano Banana inside of Adobe. Same with Gemini. Instead of Google trying to compete with it, they just they paid a licensing fee, so now you can use Nano Banana through Gemini. Like, it was that dope that nobody even tried to compete with it. They just implemented it into their own plugins.
Yeah, it's all the different AI platforms I feel like have a benefit, and to me, as you said, Gemini is really on the cutting edge of being able to edit images and minimize the amount of AI hallucination, adding different fingers in weird places, being able to maintain the image and make adjustments on it based upon, your inputs into it. I feel like you can get your own image. You're getting away from copying. I don't know about you, but I feel like Pinterest was one of the best places to get any tattoo ideas for a long time. But now you can search Pinterest, find a couple things that you like, and then have AI generate you an image based upon those, but something that's your own.
ChatGPT just came out with a web browser.
Mm-hmm.
It's a full standalone web browser, and it has an agent mode, which an agent basically can complete tasks.
Yep.
So anything that you can do on the internet, it can do for you. So whether it be anything from filling your grocery cart to
compiling a list of people to reach out to as guests onto the podcast show, and then turn around and send out those emails to reach out to those guests, to reading all of my Instagram messages and offer me analytics and strategies based off of the content of all my messages. You can do anything that you can do on the internet, but now it's
It's there's a lot of people afraid of it, but at the moment there's so many benefits to using it that you have to use it. You have
it's
to
not going
utilize
anywhere.
it.
It's moving so fast that if you don't adopt it in some way, shape, or form, especially in business, you're gonna be left behind
Oh, yeah.
faster than you can even fucking realize.
You know, even its ability to create marketing for you, give me a month's worth of, here's my business. Yeah, one of the best things you can do, in my opinion, with AI is have it ask you questions for your task. Hey, I wanna build 30 days worth of social media posts for my business. Ask me 10 questions about my business to help generate a better social media post, and then I'll ask you questions, you answer them, and then there you go. There's 30 days of generated social media posts to help get traffic to your website, or seeing the things that you want them to see, and there's less thinking involved.
Yeah, and now you can create and post those posts for you.
Mm-hmm. Allows you to automate a lot of the things, which goes back to what we were talking about before, which is spending more time with your kids.
Oh yeah.
It minimizes the amount of time that you have to spend on something to open you up for other aspects of your life that you want to be working on.
I only work like 10 days a month, and that's specifically to be able to spend the other 2/3 of the month at home.
Mm-hmm.
My whole entire life is modeled around being at home with kids. I have a full professional standalone studio on my property, so sometimes I'll do my full day sessions from home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love being at home. That in my house is dope as fuck. We have a big ass lakefront property. It's a lot of fun. I'll never want to go anywhere. Once I'm home, I want to fucking kick it there.
Yep. I think that's obviously COVID had about a million downsides, but
I loved COVID, dude. I loved the shutdown. I loved it was. I mean, obviously it was shitty for a lot of people. I don't love what it did
mm-hmm.
to a lot of people, but I loved the whole idea of shutdown. It gave me a month to not have to. It was just an excuse to not go to work. Like I didn't feel guilty about it. I didn't. It was like one long Christmas break
Mm-hmm.
or spring break.
Yeah, and it opened up the aspect of working from home for a lot of people. I never would have imagined that I had a job I could work from home, and
Does your job work from home now?
the ability to work from home. I still spend a majority of my time in the office, especially when my daughter has school, because I get the benefit of working out at lunch, and that's a plus. But to not miss my daughter's school events, she, the way her school works, they have 2 weeks off every quarter for spring break, fall break, winter break. So I work from home. During those 2 weeks, instead of having to pay the extra money for her to go to full day care.
Mm-hmm.
During the summer, I work from home every day that I can, and work affords me the opportunity, and I try not to take advantage of it, so I remain committed to my job and everything else. But I have a great relationship with my boss, and he values family the same way that I do, and I get to do things that I'm sure my dad wished he could have done. And I feel like during COVID, you were forced to bring your circle in. You had to lessen your circle, and I feel like it benefited the relationships that I had with people, the people that came into my circle, because they became the people that I spent all my time with, and from that you know, I got good friends. My daughter's, like I said, she gets taken care of like one of their own, and their kids get taken care of like one of my own, and I don't know if we'd have that same relationship without the opportunity that COVID provided. And it helps we all live in the same neighborhood as well. So when everything's shut down, nothing's open, all the kids are outside playing. We don't have TV kids or tablet kids. If they have the opportunity to be outside, that's where they want to be.
Well, that's good. Kids would definitely rather be on their tablets, but I don't let them. You guys gotta go outside, get hurt.
Yep.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for See how irritating this is? Thanks for watching. New episodes drop every Sunday, 7:30 p.m. EST. If you would like to see my work, that's on Instagram, Rob_Taylor_tattoo. Please like, subscribe, drop any suggestions you may have in the comments, whether that be from production to topics to guests. We appreciate you being here with us for this journey on this channel. Yeah, thank you.